Good afternoon. I'm Dan Aldridge, and thank you for joining us again at this afternoon's Share Conference that focuses on energy and industrial companies. This afternoon, I'm pleased to be joined by Nicolas Finazzo, Chairman and CEO of AerSale. Similar to prior conferences, I'll turn it over to Nick for some opening thoughts, and then we'll go through Q&A, and we'll open it up to the audience. So with that being said, Nick, I'll turn it over to you for opening comments.
Okay. Thanks for hosting this, Dan. And let me tell you a little bit about the company for those viewers who haven't heard much about AerSale before. So we've been in business since 2008. We focus in the commercial aerospace aftermarket space. Last year, on December 22nd, we became a public company by merger with a SPAC. So we built this business to be a fully integrated, multi-dimensional business that focuses, we use our engineering capabilities across multiple business segments, and our focus is on commercial passenger and cargo aircraft that are in the midlife of their technology, their midlife, mid-technology equipment. We're not dealing with brand new current technology aircraft. We're dealing with aircraft that are one technology cycle old. Our customer base is primarily second-tier airlines and cargo operators. So broadly, we conduct business across two business units, one we call asset management and the other tech ops. Our asset management group extracts value out of aircraft and engines. We buy single aircraft or fleets of commercial aircraft, engines or parts. We lease or sell whole aircraft, engines or parts. And we've got an international sales organization located in Miami, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee, Dublin, Ireland, Cardiff, Wales, United Kingdom, and Singapore. We do parts distribution from our warehouse in Memphis, Tennessee. The other portion of our business is tech ops, technical operations. And in tech ops, we perform maintenance and overhaul of the aircraft, engines, or parts that we purchase for ourselves for redistribution, or we do that work for third parties. We've got two on-airport MRO facilities located in Roswell, New Mexico, and Goodyear, Arizona. Those are FAA-approved repair stations. In those stations, we do on-airport storage and aircraft dismantling for parts, both in Roswell and Goodyear. We overhaul landing gear at our FAA-approved repair station in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. We overhaul aircraft structures, flaps, cowlings, flight controls, other things similar to that at our FAA-approved component shops in Miami, Florida, and Memphis, Tennessee. And finally, we overhaul aircraft electrical and mechanical components, things such as starters, generators, hydraulic pumps, fuel pumps, etc., at our FAA-approved repair station in Miami, Florida. In Goodyear, we also do passenger to cargo aircraft conversions. Finally, we develop proprietary, advanced, engineered products that comply with new FAA regulations or regulations of other governments and or our product improvements to commercial aircraft. We have three products that we currently are either developed or in the process of developing. When we develop these products, they gain supplemental type certificate status by the FAA, which allows us to modify an aircraft. AirSafe is our first STC, and it eliminates fuel vapors in an empty fuel tank, preventing an ignition and therefore preventing the cause of a catastrophe. AirTrack is an STC we have that enables an aircraft to be seen by the GPS system versus conventional radar. AirAware is our pending STC that consists of an advanced head-wearable enhanced flight vision goggle that allows our pilots to view their flight deck instrumentation and see through the weather.
Perfect. So let's get in a little bit to some of the questions. So the first one, we're really focusing on how the business has performed really over the last 6 months since last time we talked in July, and what you've really seen in the recovery of the aerospace industry at this point.
Sure. So with regard to how the stock price has performed, how we've done this year, I think it's taken the better part of this year for the investor community really to appreciate the value of our business model. Again, our business model was purpose-built, multi-dimensional, fully integrated, where we have built-in counter-cyclical hedges where portions of the business are performing very well in a tough market where other portions of the business may be off. We think that counter-cyclical hedge that we've got built in allows the company to keep growing regardless of the whatever phase we're at in an industry cycle. Today we're in a down cycle as a result of the pandemic. Besides the way we built the business, we think the company's stock has performed very well as a result of the development of our AerAware product, as I mentioned before. That's our advanced technology enhanced flight vision product. So we believe our financial results reflect our ability to outperform even during times of extreme industry stress. This has been one of the toughest down cycles we've ever experienced. So I think the proof of our financial model is how well we're performing as a result of how well we're performing in a tough industry cycle.
Okay, great. So obviously you guys went public last year, via SPAC, and the share price, as you've mentioned, has done really well over the last, call it, several months, and that's enabled you to redeem warrants that were associated with the SPAC. Can you, at a high level, just explain to the investors, a little bit more about how that transaction works and why you're doing it now?
Sure. So on November 29th, we came out with a notice of redemption of our public warrants. And basically, we had, when the company was first formed as part of the SPAC process in a formulation, there were, for every share that was purchased, a shareholder also got a warrant. The warrant was able to be purchased at $11.50. In order for us to redeem the warrants, we had to, as a result of our performance, our stock reached $18 a share and stayed at $18 a share for the duration required under our warrant agreements, so that the company could basically redeem the warrants and turn the warrants into either require the warrant holders to buy shares of stock for $11.50, or we could do a cashless exchange where we cause the warrant holders to redeem the intrinsic value of their warrants for AerSale's common stock. We did that. We did that notice of redemption on November 29th, and we expect by the end of the year, we will have redeemed all of our public company warrants to basically eliminate the overhang of warrants, and it'll simplify our capital structure, and all we'll really have left is just common stock.
Clearing that up, and let's jump back into the business a little bit. So let's talk about the asset management side, and particularly the life cycle from the acquisition of the aircraft to when it's monetized, and then talk a little bit about what that pipeline looks like right now.
Sure. So 2021 will end up being a record year financially for the company. And I think that that's a result of our fully integrated multi-dimensional business model that, again, as I said earlier, enables us to extract value out of used aircraft, in a tough aviation market. If you look at where we're getting, where we're focusing our energy today, it's on the wide body freighter aircraft, engines and parts that are supporting wide body freighter aircraft, because freight is at a peak. It's a result of the booming e-commerce market and lack of capacity on international routes that previously were flown by passenger aircraft. Lots of belly space, and passenger aircraft previously carried freight. We've also decided, last year we purchased 757 passenger aircraft to convert to freighter at our Goodyear facility, and that's also feeding the cargo market. So as we look at the overall market today, and we find that the passenger side is struggling, the freighter side is not. So we shift focus to be more focused on the freighter side of the business.
Okay.
What was the next question? There was a related question.
Yeah, so it was just on the pipeline itself, of the assets that are available for sale.
Okay, so as we look out into the marketplace today, there are a number of dynamics in play, that are in play that are affecting the availability of attractively priced feedstock. One, it's taken the better part of a year and a half for the airlines to rationalize their fleet plans. So as they look at, what are they going to need to continue to operate in today's market, depending on whether they're wide body focused or narrow body focused, and where the traffic patterns are, they're finally today, after a little over a year and a half in this pandemic, determining what they can do with their fleets, and what aircraft they're permanently going to retire, and what aircraft they can continue in service and will come out of the desert that have been stored and return to service. So as the airlines can rationalize their fleet plans, they're able to dispose of more aircraft. And so what we're seeing now for the first time is they have both they know what their plan is with respect to used aircraft that are going to be retired, and they have the labor or technical resources today to be able to dispose of those aircraft and send them into the aftermarket. That's creating a good buying opportunity for AerSale, buying aircraft that are no longer operating, that are off lease, that potentially are stored in the desert. The other part of that is the leasing companies. The leasing companies have recovered aircraft, repossessed aircraft from lessees that could not pay as a result of the pandemic. And they've stored those aircraft all throughout the desert locations in the United States, especially at our facilities in Goodyear, Arizona, and Roswell, New Mexico. And the leasing companies have held those aircraft with the hopes that if they can't go to put it back in service, they're going to sell them into the aftermarket. The pricing has prevented or discouraged them from selling those aircraft for the past year and a half. What we're seeing now is that after a year and a half of holding aircraft and not finding lessees for them, and the recovery, lagging, is we don't believe the recovery will occur for, at least on the narrow body side through 23 and the wide body passenger side through 24. The leasing companies are now starting to dispose of their used aircraft that have been parked for over a year and a half. All of that is reflective of what I describe as an incoming tide of used equipment that's attractively priced, that we believe will reach flood stage as we approach next year and into 23.
Great. So let's talk about one specific acquisition that you guys did for a package of 757 aircraft, and that those are being converted into Freightliners. So can you tell us a little bit about where that program is and how it's been performing?
Oh, sure. Program's been performing really well. When we looked at, after the pandemic was declared and airplanes were parked all over the country, all over the world for that matter, we looked to see, well, what equipment could we buy that we could buy in a post-pandemic world with passenger airline aircraft parked everywhere, where we could take a passenger aircraft, because all the freighters were out already flying. We could take a passenger aircraft and we could figure out, where would we get its greatest value? And we determined that with a fleet of 26 757 Boeing 757s that were located in our Roswell, New Mexico facility, we studied the market and we determined with the booming e-commerce market I mentioned earlier and the lack of wide body space on passenger aircraft, that there would be strong demand for converted freighter aircraft. So we studied who the end user customers would be. We determined what it would cost for us to economically acquire the aircraft and then redistribute the aircraft as a converted freighter or sell to Chinese operators who would get them converted themselves. So when we did all that study and we looked at the 26 airplanes, 24 of which were flyable, 2 were part outs, we knew that we had the market. We had a rough idea of what the prices were. We had an advantage because the aircraft were stored at our facility in Roswell, New Mexico. And we did a fleet acquisition of 26 aircraft, 2 aircraft that got parted out, 22 spare engines that got reserviced or parted out, and 24 aircraft that once we put all the engines on them after repair will be flyable aircraft. Of those flyable aircraft, we have substantially all of them under contract. I think we will have monetized, we believe, all of the 24 aircraft before the end of 2022. And that actually is a benefit at this point because we've got enough feedstock that's going through freighter conversion, 6 of which we're doing ourselves, and we're looking at doing more freighter conversion, that not only is that really bolstering our finances for 2021, but the carryover disposition of those aircraft post-conversion will basically help fill our 2022 pipeline of equipment and provide a very strong base for our 2022 projections.
Okay,
so program's doing very well.
All right, sorry about that. Let's talk about the other side of the business, the MRO side, and high level, just a little bit, what services do you provide there, and how do they fit into the overall AerSale solution?
The MRO services that we perform are, facilitate bringing customers into the business. So when we can do a lot of things for a customer, when we can provide them with a one-stop shop, it really, it helps grow our customer base because a customer may come to us for a service that we hadn't previously performed. Once we get them as a customer to do those services. Take landing gear as an example. We developed landing gear capability in the last 2 years at our Rio Rancho facility, and that's brought in new customers to us because of our landing gear capability, which is in scarce supply for overhaul capability. So it's brought some new customers in for us. But basically, what do we do at our MRO facilities? We, as I mentioned, and how do they fit in? We overhaul the significant components on an aircraft, as well as the complete overhaul of aircraft, to be able to provide our customers with, as I said before, kind of a one-stop shop where we can do all the things that they need for us to do, where because of our multidimensional capability to extract value out of aircraft, when we can overhaul the subcomponents, overhaul the whole aircraft, have the engines repaired and overhaul landing gear, that helps provide low-cost material to incorporate in whole aircraft that we put out ultimately for a sale or lease. It provides, again, opportunities to do work for third parties, which will, keep customers coming to us because of our capability. It allows us to take a fleet of aircraft and cobble the best aircraft together from a fleet because of the diverse nature of our repair capability. In our storage facilities, having storage capability at a pretty significant scale, both in Roswell and Goodyear, in an off cycle, right after the start of the pandemic, when almost 500 aircraft were parked at our 2 storage facilities. That provided us with a very strong base of revenue, using basically lower tech labor, because most of the work doing storage maintenance doesn't require, A&P licensed mechanics. And that gave us much higher than typical margins that we would get on the storage side. So when you look at all of those services and products together, it really completes the picture of how do you extract the most value out of the equipment that we operate, the equipment that we offer, because to buy them, we've got to be able to extract greater value than others. To be able to sell them, we've got to be able to put more lower cost components in the aircraft or engines so that we can make them attractively priced and create a value for our customers. All taken together, that model is working extremely well.
Okay. So we've got a question from the audience specifically on AerSafe. Can you tell us kind of what's behind the momentum there and what's driving the volume?
Sure. As I mentioned before, AerSafe was developed as a means to prevent fumes in an empty center fuel tank from igniting and creating a catastrophe. That's what happened with TWA Flight 800 off of Long Island. It was a 747. Empty fuel vapors, spark, catastrophe. FAA came out with a mandate, said you've got to find a way to comply with to make sure that empty fuel tanks with fuel vapors don't have an ignition source and can ignite. 2 methodologies to comply with that. One is to take the oxygen out of the tank, and that's called a nitrogen system. Boeing and Airbus use nitrogen systems in their aircraft. The other is to put a reticulated polyurethane foam sit inside the center fuel tank, and that compartmentalizes the oxygen and prevents a spark also from igniting and creating a catastrophe. The requirement to basically make the center fuel tank safe from fuel vapors was fully implemented in the United States at the end of 2017. So as of January 2018, all passenger aircraft had to have some type of means to prevent ignition from mitigating ignition of oxygen and fuel vapors from propagating inside a center fuel tank. So that requirement already has been out with the FAA in a number of jurisdictions. Over the last several years, more jurisdictions have passed that requirement to provide that ignition mitigation means. Okay, but that's not what's driving it today. What's driving it today is there's another airworthiness directive that came out, and that airworthiness directive, and by the way, what I just mentioned all applies to passenger aircraft today, not cargo aircraft. A new airworthiness directive came out that has a compliance date of May of 2022 that says that if even in a jurisdiction where they don't require a fuel vapor mitigation means like AerSafe or the nitrogen system, if you have a center fuel tank that does not have AerSafe or some other type or nitrogen mitigation system installed, you had to take the center fuel tank wiring and you had to take it out and you had to rework it. That's very expensive and time consuming. It could take weeks to do that. Our AerSafe product complies with that requirement as well. If you install AerSafe in a 757 center fuel tank, you don't have to change the wiring. Likewise, with all the other AerSafe products we have for the A320 and 737 NG, 767, and 777 family of aircraft.
Okay. So another question on another engineered solution product, AerAware. And can you tell us kind of where we are with AerAware? What's the potential for orders and the future of commercialization with that product?
Sure. For those of you who hadn't heard that, and probably the one that we're most excited about is AerAware. It's got a huge addressable market. Basically, we think there's over 16,000 aircraft that are available for retrofit with our enhanced flight vision system. What's so special about it? One, it's a military style technology. The head wearable display we have, which you have to think of as an enhanced flight vision goggle, like a virtual reality goggle. Pilots wear it, but allows them to see through it. They can see select flight deck instrumentation. They can see through the weather. They can see LED lights. They can overlay synthetic vision on top of it. Something similar to what you see with Google Earth when you go down to you see pictures of your house. That's similar to synthetic vision. That technology presently is not available on large commercial passenger aircraft. The aircraft you see behind me, that's a 737-800NG. We've been flying that airplane now for the better part of the year. We've put over 100 flight hours on it. The AerAware system is installed in that aircraft. It is fully functional. It does all the things I just described. Further, by the way, when a pilot puts a head wearable display on, he looks left or right. You can see it's almost 180 degree, and he can see all the things that I mentioned. That technology basically we believe is going to replace a 2-decade-old technology called a head-up display. If you have a car that has a head-up display, it displays your speed and maybe direction on your windshield. That's old technology. That's been around for 2 decades. Our technology is military style. Again, it's what the pilots in the F-35, it's very similar head wearable display to what those pilots use. So it's advanced technology, but it's not just a head wearable display. It's coupled with a camera that sees through the weather, and that's with very, very good clarity. And that's something, again, that doesn't exist on large commercial aircraft today. We expect this technology will eventually become the gold standard for enhanced flight vision technology. We think it's superior. We think that at least on the equipment that we have, which we're getting from an Elbit company, Universal, we think that is superior to anything that exists in the marketplace today. We're the first to have that installed in a commercial aircraft, to have it flying, and we believe we'll be the first to have that advanced technology certified. We're close. We've done lots of flying of the aircraft ourselves. We've had 2 separate rounds of flight testing with the FAA, and we expect to perform our final flight testing here in the coming quarters and finish.
Okay. So next question is really on growth, and obviously, AerAware will be a part of this. But apart from that, what do you feel like are the main growth drivers for the next 3 to 5 years for the business?
So there are really a number of things. One, you have to look at the age of the company. The company is just a little over a decade old. We compete against companies that have been in the business for 20 to 90 years. A large competitor, AAR, has been in business for 65 years. So just aging kind of naturally will bring more business to the company as we broaden our customer base. So that's one way that we're going to continue to grow just organically as a result of just the company maturing and gaining customer base as a result of the company's businesses maturing and the breadth of our customer reach matures. However, we feel that as each business unit matures, so will our efficiency mature. So some of the things we've been doing, we haven't been doing very long, and we're becoming more and more efficient at performing the services that we perform at our different business units. So that's going to lead to margin expansion at our business units as we become more efficient. Again, kind of natural growth, natural gaining efficiency, as a company becomes, more mature with time. Market penetration, again, being a decade-old company, will continue to have greater market penetration as we age. Our market penetration today is insignificant. There's a huge market ahead of us. We don't at this point, maybe with our AerAware, we'll be the market leader in that technology. But at this point, we just have a very small penetration into any segment of our market. So there's plenty of room to organically grow. Further, we're coming, as I mentioned earlier, we're coming into the buying season over the next several years for a substantial quantity of aircraft feedstock, which will serve all of our business units. So as we acquire that equipment in 22 and 23, that will feed our business units for several years, just from the oversupply, is our opinion, of feedstock that will come into the market here in the next couple of years. I can contrast that to when we started the business. We made over $500 million of acquisitions in the first 5 years of the company. So we haven't been buying at that level in the past 5 years. So, we are now starting to purchase at that level, and we believe we'll be at that level again here in the next couple of years. The only difference is today we have the capability to quickly monetize that equipment at a much higher margin because we have capability. We've got a platform that has scale, and none of which we had when we started the company 10 years ago. We've got decades of experience now in this space, and over a dozen years of experience with specific costing information on all the assets that we've purchased. So, we can be, with that experience, we can be more disciplined in our purchasing to make sure that whatever we buy, we've got a track record of purchasing and disposition where we know what's a safe and disciplined purchase. And finally, we've got plenty of capital to access to buy into today's market. We've got an undrawn $150 million credit facility, and today we're sitting on over $100 million of cash.
Okay, excellent. So jumping around a little bit, we're going to go back into some audience questions. And so this one's very specific, and answer it to the extent that you can. But what is the relationship between AerSale and Elbit Systems?
So Elbit Systems is the manufacturer of the head wearable display. I believe Elbit System calls their product ClearVision. Our brand is, we're taking their hardware and we're integrating it in commercial aircraft. And when we do that and we're issued a supplemental type certificate for AerSale, that's branded as AerAware. So the relationship is, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of how many year contract we have and a lot of the details of it with Elbit. And it's, by the way, it's through their subsidiary Universal Avionics. So we've got a long-term exclusive agreement with Elbit/Universal to integrate their hardware into a number of different types of commercial aircraft.
Okay, so last one, and this one's gonna be on capital allocation, and then I'll pitch it back to you for any closing comments. But for AerSale as a company, how do you think about capital allocation now? How has that changed, and how do you anticipate it changing as you go forward?
So I think we're in an expansion mode at this point. So as I mentioned, it is likely that we're going to be, this will be our best year from, ever. And our plan is to continue to develop our engineered products. So our top priority will be to make sure that we allocate the capital necessary to continue to develop these proprietary, advanced products that are novel, or that are existing products on brand new aircraft that don't exist today in used commercial aircraft. So what we intend to do is to find a way to take those products that are in brand new shiny aircraft and give the same bells and whistles to commercial aircraft that are already out there in service. That's the 16,000 aircraft addressable market that I'm talking about. So that we can take a used aircraft owner and we can give them the same bells and whistles that a new aircraft owner has. So we will expect, clearly top priority will be on the engineered solutions side of the business, but we don't think that that's going to be a consumer of much capital. The greatest allocation of capital is going to come from acquisition of flight assets. As I mentioned, we're in the buying season. We think the greatest portion of our cash will be spent on acquiring aircraft, engines, and parts in this market. Further, we intend to build new repair facilities at our on-airport repair stations. And we'll probably finance that with a combination of specialty long-term financing, potentially bonds, and a portion of our available cash. We have plenty of real estate in our facilities, certainly in Goodyear, Arizona, and we want to maximize our ability to perform more MRO work, more maintenance and repair work at our Goodyear facility by adding an additional hangar there, or hangars that will support at least up to a 777-300ER. I don't know that we need to go bigger than that. 747 is no longer an aircraft that's in favor. So I think a 777, we want to be able to accommodate a 777 and do everything, overhaul it, paint it, do all the services necessary on a 777 extended range version 300, at our facilities in Goodyear. So a portion of our, capital will be deployed in building out new facilities. And, finally, we will look at strategic acquisitions. If we find a company that can add to our, customer base or give us new capability, and it's at the right price, because we're going to be a disciplined buyer, we will use acquisition financing to acquire a new business, or we now have the availability to use company stock and a portion of our cash to fund a deal. We're going to be very diligent about using our company stock, because today we feel like there's a lot of room to grow, and so it feels like we're giving up a lot if we use our company stock to make an acquisition. However, we may do that to facilitate an acquisition, but I think that I'd rather use mostly cash or financing to make an acquisition.
Okay, perfect. Well, Nick, thank you very much for the time today. Thank you to AerSale as well. I'll turn it over for you for any closing comments, but it's great to hear about the progress, and obviously all the opportunity that you guys have in front of you. So after closing comments from Nick, I'll come back with a couple thoughts myself and talk about the next conference. Nick?
Okay. All right. Again, Dan, thanks for hosting this, and for your investor audience to listen in today. I think that we've built a business that has performed extremely well in a super tough environment. I think that's a testament to our business model and the experience of our management team, not just myself and Bob Nicolas, both of us who formed the company, but all of our senior management team and everyone, all the way down to the guys that are working on airplanes on the line. We've got a dedicated employee group. I'm very thankful that we've been relatively safe throughout this pandemic, and done everything we could possibly do to protect our employees. So our good performance is the result of the hard work of our entire team, and I'm thankful to them. So that's, in closing, that's all I have to say. And again, thank you for listening.
All right, thanks, Nick. And to the audience, thank you for watching today's sessions. Next year, we have a great slate of conferences. We're going to have 8, starting with the Financial Services Conference on February 28th, and a very large consumer conference on March 28th. So with that, everybody have a happy holiday and Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.